I'm joined now by Seth Berenzweig, founding and managing partner of Berenzweig Leonard, joining us from our D.C. bureau, and in our Atlanta bureau, Patrick Madonna, who is criminal defense attorney and a former prosecutor. Good to see you both. Let me start with you, Seth. Holly Jacobs taking legal action, suing this guy. Does she have a case?
Well, I think she does have a case. You start at the initial point that in these kinds of cases, this kind of a plaintiff operates at an initial legal deficit because the rate of bad behavior on the internet usually outpaces the laws that are created to help attack that kind of behavior. So other than New Jersey, there are no states that outlaw this right now. But there is a mechanism to do it, and she's doing it really in the only way that it can be done, launching a legal battle in the courthouse. Most states will recognize claims such as invasion of privacy and intentional infliction of emotional distress, and there can be a request for an injunction placed on that. Yes, there will be an asserted defense for the First Amendment. I don't believe that works very well because we're not talking about a case involving personal or political opinion. This is a guy that is just a bad guy, allegedly. He's just trying to out his old girlfriend by just throwing naked pictures on the internet. That's not traditional First Amendment speech. I think she has a case.
Patrick, would you agree?
I would agree. I mean, his actions are clearly morally reprehensible, and they cause great damage. There's really two questions here, right? Civilly, sure, I think she has a case, and she can file a case. The problem with the civil remedy, though, is litigation is very expensive, and there are surely many victims out there that don't have the ability to hire the lawyers and go through the litigation expense. And a long-distance relationship, they've got to file that suit where the defendant resides. So, Bill, I think she does have a case. I think the fact that they're trying to criminalize this, I think is really where this movement is heading.
Seth, there's one thing going after the individual who posted these. Would she also, and anybody else in this situation, have a case against the companies that host these sort of revenge porn websites?
Well, that's a great question, and unfortunately, the general answer is no. There's a federal statute called the Communications Decency Act, an oddly named law that, not to get too lost in the legal weeds, so to speak, but that's a statute that makes it hard to sue internet service providers and billboard providers. These are essentially the places that house this kind of information. However, if you are in litigation and if you can get an injunction, you may be able to get an injunction either as a third-party injunction to force them to take it down or to require the defendant to retract that. So it's hard to go after them, but it's part of the litigation strategy. So I agree that it is a difficult call, but it is something that can be done in certain states.
So, but Patrick, what you seem to be saying is that this comes down to money, and if you're just an average person trying to fight this, fighting both the individual and those companies, it's going to be a tough and expensive road to go down.
It is. There's no question. It's extremely expensive. It's extremely tough, and it's really just not an option for a number of people. Unless they take that next step and try to actually make this a criminal act, you're going to have multiple victims out there that just don't have that opportunity to try to seek that justice. And even under the civil remedies, obviously that's a lengthy process that even the person that you highlighted is still going through, and this has been ongoing for years. So I think the real question here is, can you draft a criminal statute that is narrow enough in definition that will actually pass that kind of First Amendment constitutional muster? And there's really two parts to this, right? The New Jersey statute that does make it criminal, it's not if you take the photo of yourself and send it. There was that case about 5 years ago where someone put a spy cam in on his roommate and caught him in uncompromising positions, which ultimately led to him committing suicide. So they made it a felony if you take these photos or do these things when the other person doesn't know. The real trick is if the person's taking the picture themselves or the video and then sending it, and they're really only giving them that limited consent for that person and it ends up posting it, can you criminalize that? And that's what you're beginning to see around the United States. California's looking at it, Georgia's looking at it, other states are looking at this.
Seth, yes, go on, Seth. Karen.
I was just going to agree with that and say that the Supreme Court's been very clear that certainly First Amendment protections are broad, but they're not unlimited. So in a situation like this, as long as you make it specifically tailored for that purpose, then I do think that you're going to have a chance to have this pass constitutional muster.
And Seth, I guess the best advice, whether it's legal or just plain good old-fashioned life advice, is don't put those photos out there in the first place.
Well, right. Be careful who you trust, but if you do have to go to court, make sure that you go fast and hard, file for an immediate injunction. I think that there are statutes that would allow somebody like this to file the lawsuit in their venue because the courts deemed this to be activity generated towards that state. There are chances to do it. You can hit quick and hard, file for the injunction, but it is definitely at a legal deficit, so be very careful who you trust.
Yeah, Patrick, same view. Be very careful who you trust is what this comes down to.
No question. And what you really want is shows like this making people aware of this. And you want both, right? You want the people to make sure they think before they take a photo and do that. And you want the person on the other side to realize, hey, I may be mad at my ex-girlfriend or she might have cheated on me, but I better be careful if I repost this. You want to set a deterrent on both sides.
Yep. Very good advice as people are realizing it can destroy lives, and as Anthony Weiner is realizing it can destroy careers too. Seth Berenzweig, founding and managing partner with Berenzweig Leonard, and Patrick McDonough, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor. Thank you both very much. Great to see you.